Shirik shirik yenten Shiyin rikbi yenten
Dashin lok chu tsulu Meta mebi norbu Shirik yenten ino Dashin lok chu tsulu Meta mebi norbu Shirik yenten
Kuzuzangpola to all the listeners across the nation. This is Kilebida, a teacher from Mendagang Primary School under Punakha Dzongkhag. This radio lesson is to reach to all the children across the nation. It is a mathematical lesson for class 3 on the topic reading time. I repeat the topic, reading time. Well, children, let's look at the objectives first. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to read time on an analog and a digital clock. Yes, you have to look at two types of clocks. First, let us look at the introduction given in your handbook. It says, a clock is an instrument that measures and shows time. There are two types of clocks, analog clock and digital clock. We are going to go through reading time on analog clock. Do you remember that we read time on analog clock by reading hands on it? You always see two hands on a clock. The short hand shows hours and the long hand shows minute. Let's look at the examples. Look at the first clock. The long hand is on 12. Look at the hour hand. It's on 7. So, what time is it? It is 7 o'clock. And 1 hour has 60 minutes. Do you remember that? Okay, remember, 1 hour has 60 minutes. Now, look at the next clock. Here, you will see minute hand on 6. When you see minute hand on 6, we read the time as half past. We call it half past because the time or the hand has crossed half of the clock, right? Half of the clock. So we call it as half past. Now let's look at the clock again and read the time on it. What time is it on the clock? Here, since minute hand is on 6, we read the time as half past 7 o'clock, right? Or we read as 30 minutes past 7 o'clock. Or we read as 30 minutes to 8 o'clock. Why do we say 30 minutes to 8 o'clock? Because see, again, to reach to 12, the minute hand to reach to 12, there are 30 minutes. So when the minute hand reaches to 12, it will be 8 o'clock on the clock. So we read as 30 minutes to 8 o'clock. Well, children, look at the clock given below. Let's read it. Here, minute hand is on 9. When minute hand is on 9, we read time as quarter to. Why do we say quarter to? Here, we just have quarter of the clock to strike 9. So, we read time as quarter to. The time on the clock is quarter to 8 o'clock, or we read that time as 15 minutes to 8 o'clock. See, 60 minutes when divided into half, it is 30 minutes. And quarter of 60 is 15 minutes. So we can read time as 15 minutes to 8 o'clock. Or we can read as 45 minutes past 7 o'clock. See, if we count the minutes between the numbers, in each count we have 5. So keep on counting from 12 and 1, we have 5 minutes in between. So 1 and 2, we have another 5. So keep on adding till you reach 45. And then we have 45 minutes pass. It has passed 45 minutes to 7 o'clock. I hope you are getting how to read the time. Now, let's look at the last clock. Here, the minute hand is on 3. So, here again, it is just quarter past. It has passed the quarter of 60 minutes. So, we read the time as quarter past. We read time as quarter past whenever we see the hands on 3. Remember, when the hands is on 3, we say quarter past because it has just passed the quarter of 60. And when we see minute hands on 9, we say quarter to because there we just have quarter of 60 minutes to strike next hour. So, what time is it on this clock? It is quarter past 7 o'clock. Or we read time as 15 minutes past 7 o'clock. If we count the minutes between the numbers, so it has just passed 15 minutes. So we read time as 15 minutes past 7 o'clock. Or we can read time as 45 minutes to 8 o'clock. So if we look at the clock properly, we see to reach our hand to 8 o'clock, we have 45 minutes. So 45 minutes to 8 o'clock. Okay, turn the page now. Here we are going to look at another type of clock. The clock which we have been looking at is an analog clock. And here we have a digital clock. And this digital clock we use everywhere nowadays. Everywhere you see, we see this digital clock most of the time. We read time using the numbers on a digital clock. We just have to read the numbers. Time on digital clock is separated by a colon. You will see 2 dots, right? You will see 2 dots between the lines. That separates the hour and the minute. Number before the colon represents hour and number after the colon is minute. Like in analog, short is hour and longer hand is minute. So here in a digital clock, number before colon is hour and number after the colon is minute. Now let's look at the digital clock given below. Do you see some clocks there? First one, let's look at the first one. There the time says 7 o'clock. In this clock, 07 represents the hour, right? It is before the colon. And minute, since it is o'clock, minute is 00, okay? So we can see 2 zeros. That represents the minute. Well, let's look at another clock just given below the 7 o'clock. Do you see a clock there? The time on the clock is 7:30. On a digital clock, we just have to read the numbers. So 07 is 7, so 7:30. Hour, we have 7 and minute, it's 30. So we read the time as 7:30. Or we can read time as 1:30 o'clock. Why half? Because you know that 30 minutes is half of 60. So it has just passed 30 minutes, so 1:30 o'clock. Or we can read time as 30 minutes past 7 o'clock. We can read time as 30 minutes past 7 o'clock. Or we can read time as 30 minutes to 8 o'clock. We just need 30 minutes to 8 o'clock. Now look at next example. The time on the clock says 7:15 and we read time as 7:15. It's much easier, right? Or we can read time as 7:15 o'clock. Since 15 is quarter of 60, we can say 7:15 o'clock. Or we can say 15 minutes past 7 o'clock. Or we can read time as 45 minutes to 8 o'clock. Now, the last one says 7:45. Time on the clock is 7:45. And here we just need 15 minutes to 8 o'clock. So we can read time as 7:45 o'clock or 15 minutes to 8 o'clock or 45 minutes past 7 o'clock. So this is how we read a digital clock. Now we have some activity for you. Activity 1. Write the time shown on the analog clocks. The first one is done for you. Do you see the clock A? Clock A, the minute hand is on 5 and the hour hand is between 2 and 3. So it has passed 2 and the minute hand is on 5. So you start counting on counts of 5 from 1. Okay, so 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25. So it has passed 25 minutes past 2 o'clock. Likewise, you have clock B and clock C. Count like the first one and write down the time given below. There is a space given below. And you have question 2. Here you have to write the time shown on the digital clocks. The first one is done for you. See, on the clock you will see 8:20. The time right away you can say 8:20. And then B, it's 12:32. You just have to write 12:32. And C, since we have 0 in minute place, we can directly say the time as 5 o'clock. Right? 5 o'clock. Okay, now we have activity 2. It's very easy here. What you have to do is you have to read the time on analog clock and digital clock and you just have to match the time. Okay? What it looks like on analog clock and what could be the time on digital clock. Study the clocks and do the matching. Alright children, before I leave you with the self-check for learning, let's look at what we have learned today. We just learned how to read time on an analog clock and a digital clock. And to check yourself how much you have learned, there is a self-check for learning. Let me read the question for you. Dema started reading a book at 6:15. She read the book for 30 minutes and stopped reading. At what time did she stop reading? You have to remember 1 hour is 60 minutes and do some calculation on it and write down your answer. Okay, till then, bye-bye and see you. Stay safe.
Şerik şerik yenten Şeyin rikbi yenten
Dajin lop tu tulu Meta me binorbu Chiri genten ino Dajin lop tu tulu